Good morning and welcome to the public workshop and meeting of the Transportation Disadvantaged Coordination Board. I'm Commissioner Gwen Myers. Just want to read one of the rules for us for this morning. Professional courtesy and respect for others at the meeting are expected, and failure may result in dismissal from the meeting. Just want to share that with us. At this time, we will have the workshop to order and introduction. Go to roll call. Roll call and declaration of a quorum. Gail Reese.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. I'll start with roll call. Commissioner Myers.
Here.
Gloria Mills.
Here.
Glenn Brown.
Here.
Deborah Noel.
Mike
Mike Lacey.
Here.
Thank you. Artie Fryer.
Present.
Craig Fursell.
Here.
David Newell and Tracy Noyes, they're excused today. Emily Hugart.
Here.
Christina Melling.
Here.
Beth Pasek. I believe she's online. Let me double check that. Yes, she is. Mark Harshberger.
Here.
Nancy Castellano. Deborah LaQuinta. Dr. Gordon.
I'm here. Morning.
Alexia Wiggins. Councilman Schisler.
Online.
John Pelkey. Adira Chambers.
Here.
John Vargas.
Here. Present.
Cassandra Blaylock.
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a consent vote for remote participation?
Do we have anyone that unopposed of the roll call vote? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we accept the roll call vote. Thank you so much, Gail. The vote of for remote members participation, going to ask Josh Barber.
That's what we just did.
Okay. Thanks.
Gail, if you're okay.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Were you okay with the no opposition to allowing both remote participation, or would you prefer a roll call?
No. The voice vote is just fine. And since there was no opposition, remote participation will be allowed for today's meeting.
Workshop presentation, Josh.
Good morning, board members. Josh Barber, TPO staff. Just a little bit of a background. As part of the planning grant that we received from the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged, we're required to host an annual public workshop in addition to our board meetings. So I'll be going through a little bit of a public workshop. I'll be kind of providing an overview of the TV system and our role as a board, our required planning products, and I have a little bit of a discussion item for us related to public involvement that came out of our most recent Transportation Disadvantaged Service Plan update. So a little bit about our local coordinating board. As you all know, the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged was established back in 1992.
Hold on one second, Josh. Yeah, can you put everyone on mute, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. Give me just a moment and I'll get everybody on mute.
Okay, thank you.
Sound good? Okay. So the local coordinating boards were established at the county level to identify local service needs, provide information, advice, and direction on the coordination of services to be provided for the transportation disadvantage, as outlined in Chapter 427 of state statute. The transportation disadvantage are, of course, people over the age of 65, people who are low income, people with disabilities, and children at risk. And as a local coordinating board, our job is to advise both the Sunshine Line and the Board of County Commissioners, who are the Community Transportation Coordinator. We also have a role in advising the TPO board on issues of transportation relating to the transportation disadvantaged. We also advise HART, coordinate with HART on the provision of services for the transportation disadvantaged as well. As you all know, Sunshine Line provides door-to-door service outside of HART's service area. So the coordination there is absolutely essential. And then we also provide advice and direction and information to the state at the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged on local issues, as well as the state legislature through stuff like TD Legislative Day and other methods. So the roles and duties of our local coordinating board here, really the major crux is facilitating a coordinated system. We do that through hosting our meetings every 2 months. The state requires us to meet only quarterly, but we meet every 2 months, 6 times a year. Just facilitating dialogue around community issues relating to TD and the provision of services, and facilitating coordination among our agencies, which are all seated here. The annual products the board is required to review and approve include the CTC evaluation that came before the board for the last fiscal year in February. We just executed a contract as well for the next CTC evaluation. We will be looking at finalizing that sometime in December. The fiscal year for that evaluation ends at the end of June. We're also responsible for developing and approving a transportation disadvantaged service plan. Major updates occur every 5 years, as you all know, with the redesignation of the Community Transportation Coordinator, which just occurred last year. We also do minor updates every year. The last one was approved in October, and we'll be looking at a minor update sometime after the end of this fiscal year in June. We also are responsible for reviewing our annual operating report. That's information about operations system-wide for both the Sunshine Line and our coordination contractors. Those are agencies that receive $5310 from the federal government, as well as the board is also a way of processing grievances that come through the system that can be resolved at a staff level. So if a rider has a particular issue that can be resolved, they are able to file a formal grievance, and the board is responsible for reviewing and processing those as well. And more broadly, just supporting the Sunshine Line and the Board of County Commissioners in providing services. So I want to talk a little bit about our most recent service plan. As you all know, we adopted that in October. We identified, we conducted a needs assessment. We identified a lot of barriers to coordination in the system. And we developed a host of strategies, goals, and objectives to, continue to support the system overall. 2 strategies that came out were to look at a way of develop and maintaining resources to inform the public and TD individuals about the services that are available, such as a clearinghouse type web page. We also discussed the need to better communicate with social service providers, as well as the general public, about information on available resources. As part of the barriers to coordination, we identified that there are social service agencies that aren't aware of the services that are available currently. And so with that, I guess I would like to ask you all, what do you all think a more robust engagement strategy looks like with the public? How can our board and the TPO support awareness of the Sunshine Line moving forward? And a little bit more background. Karen, maybe you can help out. The Sunshine Line does do public outreach extensively. You all did a lot of in-person outreach before the pandemic. You went to health fairs and other events, but since the pandemic has started, it's been a little more dwindled.
Right, those events haven't been happening. So as soon as they do, we continue to do them. And it does hit, you know, people are participating in those events, providers, but really still missing some.
I think a couple of ways that we can consider is through our various churches and contacting the various churches and ask would they disseminate the materials, as well as we have information that's posted on our hard transit line. Okay, neighborhood service centers or resource centers. And when I was working, it was neighborhood service centers, so have to forgive me. Resource centers. We have to meet the need of the people, and if we have information there when they come in, we can always share that with them.
It's a great idea. I definitely heard churches seem to be a really great vehicle to make to create awareness of the services available. And I know that Sunday service for people who want to attend church has definitely been something that's been talked about previously here at the board level.
And it's also another way for those who attend church services, if they have a medical appointment, what have you, they might not know the services that we offer. So it's another way to educate them on the services that are being offered by the county.
I'm Cassandra Blaylock. I noticed the city of Tampa have I guess what you call them, electronic boards in certain areas where they advertise. That might be a ideal place to place information or infomercials, the Sunshine Line as well.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about churches. It's tapping into a database or creating a database, an existing database, or being able to identify the churches. Because I tried to do a GIS search, and I put in churches in Tampa Bay and or local Tampa area, put it in zip codes, and I knew some of the churches weren't on there because I went to those churches before. So that's going to be a challenge.
But we have the, speaking of churches, and thank you, we have the pastors on patrol. I can give you Pastors Nathan's contact information. And we have the Coalition of Pastors, Coalition of Clergies. I can give you both of those contacts before I leave. Also, when we mention City of Tampa, let's include Plant City and Tampa Terrace as sharing the information as well on their sites.
I also wanted to mention that I believe the Department of Neighborhoods has a listing of churches, at least they did a couple of years ago, where they had updated that database. The challenge has been traditionally is churches, a lot of the smaller ones tend to move a lot.
Yes.
So there's that. But there is a pretty good size listing in the Department of Neighborhoods. It could be.
They have relations with Wanda Sloan.
Yes. Also, I'd like to suggest maybe some sort of either rider blog or driver's blog or some sort of blog that just puts the experience out on the web. It's sort of a nice positive thing in terms of what's happened. You can interview people that have gone for the service or at various service centers, have little pieces, maybe a weekly sort of blog on how it's going, what's happening, so people can see that the service is alive, it's occurring, and they can get some consumers heard just some of their stories and how it's helping their lives.
It's like a human element to it.
Yes.
To say from this kind of, so I'm a statewide agency, what we can do is I can't send out like, here's the things just for Hillsborough, because I myself am in control of like 11 counties, and if I send it out, like there's 10 counties who go, I don't care. But so if we can like kind of collaborate with say all the TPDs, where I can have a list of like, click on Hillsborough, Sunshine, like gives them information, I can send it out like, either region-wide or statewide. I can then blast that out to every single provider and case manager and all that. to make sure that they have that information.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I know the commission website maintains a list of all the CTCs in every county, so I'd be happy to pull that together for your 11 county area.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't know how we would share the information without other constitutional officers, tax collector's office, property appraiser's office. Something to think about when you're trying to educate the public what's out there and how you can get involved. And here's an opportunity for you. I would say, let's look at our other constitutional officers as well. It doesn't hurt to promote information you're trying to reach the public on.
Yeah, and we have a public relations coordinator here at the TPO level, and I think there's a good opportunity for collaboration between us, the Sunshine Line, and Rosa over there to, just see how we can, the TPO can support them, and, because we have our own audience as well. So.
I don't know if there's still a show like it, but Becky and I were on, I think something called The Morning Blend a few times. They're just kind of like a good news, alternative to all the rest of the stuff on the TV. And so shows like that would probably running out of things to talk about sometimes. And we could, if we offered, where we can, show Sunshine Light, we can show all of the different things that are available. I think maybe get to some people that way.
If I may, I have an ongoing conversation with Scott, and he expressed that back in the day, the Sunshine Line would provide transportation to like a group of people that wanted to attend something that Metropolitan Ministries was doing or whatever, right? So being that I'm from the local workforce development board, that if I could get like a blurb, I know Scott sent me something, but if I could get a blurb when we are orienting new employees as they're coming across their customers, because we are customer facing, right? And customers ask, what services are available for this, that, and the other, to be able to disseminate that information in a way that customers can pick out the useful pieces for their particular situation. Because in our building, we have ESOL, we have GD, we have, non-custodial parent, we have voc rehab, we have so many things in there, so many services in there that as our case managers are talking to their customers, they can also talk about this other service that, because now for compliance, our customers have to come in and work in the lab, so they can get their SNAP benefits, so, or, our WTP customers. So, if we could have that information and put it as part of, our new hire orientation, because, a lot of our employees don't even know that these services are available. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, building on that, maybe, whatever, I can never think of the new terminology for anything. It used to be called the unemployment office, now it's called, I forget what. But anyway, places where people are going to look for work, and part of looking for work might mean they need transportation too. So
that's us.
That's you,
Yeah,
okay.
so we're not the unemployment office. We're not the unemployment office, but we are the place that customers come to file their unemployment benefits or, make an application.
Or there would, like, say, voc rehab or any of the other
Exactly.
career network things. Transportation is one of the absolute first things.
Mhm.
Any other comments?
If I may, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Is it possible to contact the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital Transportation
Absolutely.
to get the word out? Because that's a good point of view, or a good point, because of all these satellite clinics for the VA within Hillsborough County, they could put the word out as well. And
Thank
in
you.
addition, and a public service announcement, Josh and I had spoken about this before, which is you can put a PSA out at no cost via radio and via television for the services that Sunshine Line has to offer.
Anyone else online would like to share comments?
Yeah, Commissioner, this is Scott from Sunshine Line.
Yes.
So one thing, this is great that we're trying to reach out to the community, which we've been notorious for doing for many years. But we do have to be careful that we're not advertising our service as like a free extra service, because we are non-sponsored transportation. So some of these organizations like the VA, they're sponsored. VA gets tens of millions of dollars for transportation, and they have 2 transportation programs. APD gets funding for transportation, Career Source gets funding for transportation, Voc Rehab gets funding. So we really have to be careful how we manage what we communicate and not set up false expectations. Just one of my concerns.
Thank you.
This is
Anyone
Dr.
else?
Gordon, if you can hear me.
Yes.
So I think the point that I think we're trying to make is that even as representatives on the board, we represent various agencies. For example, I represent the health department. I would love to have some kind of flyer, some kind of communication that could be regularly shared to staff who often see people who need these services, to the people who walk in our building to get services. So I guess some kind of standardized communication that could be sent out to various agencies, whether it's the health department, the various other state, county, local agencies is what I think would be helpful for us, because we certainly it wouldn't be right for us to be the ones creating this kind of messaging, but some kind of standard messaging that could be shared broadly, I think is what I hear being suggested.
Think of like the ride guide that we have, which has all of the available transportation services in the 3-county area. Maybe we could create like a small flyer that's just about Sunshine Line, the services available, something that could be handed out or sent out via email, like a PDF, something like that. That's just a bit more clear about how it works and what the eligibility is, because I think if someone gets the ride guide, say, in their hands, and it's almost overwhelming, the amount of options. And it's like, how do you better connect people with the services that they're eligible for, and that's going to best suit their need.
Yes, because one of the problems we have in Hillsborough County is that we have so many resources, and people often say they don't know about these resources. So something like that would be helpful.
This is Scott again. May I chime in?
Yes.
So we have created rack cards that we share with our community partners. We have them placed in different libraries and things like that. We already have that created. So if there's anyone in this boardroom that would like those rack cards, if you can send Josh or myself an email, and we can get those rack cards to you. It's already done. We have brochures and we have rack cards. Rack cards are to get the general information to connect. Once people are connected, we send them the brochure, which has more detailed information. So that's something we can do easily. Great points, but we have that. We just got to get it further out.
Question for Scott.
Yes.
Do you have those rack cards in an electronic format?
I'm sure we do have that. It might be in the draft to get it printed, but we can get one finalized through our communications department.
Okay.
Make a comment, please.
Yes.
Hi. Yes, this is Gil Schussler. Yes, Scott, thank you very much for that information. You have supplied those to me for the city of Temple Terrace in the past. Those rack cards and the brochures are very, very informative. It lists a ton of information that can be shared with virtually anybody. And we use it within the city of Temple Terrace with our elderly and special needs individuals. So that information is available. And in my experiences, ask them and you'll get everything you need very quickly and very succinctly. So I would recommend if you have a use for it or you have an outlet for it, just say the word and the staff will supply you whatever you need. They've been very, very good and helpful with that.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Thank you, everyone. Excellent dialogue for participation. And we know we're not gonna get an Uber, but we know we have a special need of meeting the disadvantaged transportation and the elderly, and we'll focus on that. Okay, now we'll move to public comments. Anyone online to speak for public comments? Anyone online to speak for public comments?
I'm not seeing any hands raised or comments.
Thank you so much. Okay, this concludes our workshop, and we'll adjourn the workshop, and we'll go right into our next meeting. And I'll call this meeting to order at 9:56 a.m. We're right back at public comments. Do we have anyone online for public comments? Gail, is anyone online for public comments?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat and I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. And we have the approval of the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
We have-
Madam Chair, I had some corrections. This is Scott again.
Go ahead, Scott.
So on item 6B, the second bullet, the word fair, it was meant to be a monetary fair, not an event type fair. And on the seventh bullet, the word partnership should be changed to ride along.
Any other changes to the minutes? Any other changes to the minutes? Just need someone to second, to get a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, you want to go restate the motion because we have some
Sorry.
corrections.
I'll move to approve with Scott's corrections.
I will second it.
It's been properly moved in second that we accept the minutes with the necessary changes. Anyone opposed approving the minutes? Anyone opposed approving the minutes?
Madam Chair, may I get the names of the person who made the motion and the second, please?
Glenn Brown made the motion. And the second one, Greg Porcel. Is that?
Thank you.
Thank you. So let me go back and say, if you're the speaker, would you state your name for the record? I mean, I know we know, but we always like to start talking, so let's make sure we don't want to go and do it. We know what is right because it is being recorded. Okay, so we have the action, we're now at the action items. That's Karen Sims with Sunshine. Karen? Okay, thank you.
I have to stand up here so I can see all of you, so just, well, see all of you except for whoever's online. Good morning, I'm Karen Smith with Sunshine Line. There we go. Josh is in control of my presentation, so I can't.
Is your mic on? Is the mic on?
Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Not with the mic.
now?
Yes, we can hear you remotely.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
All right, good morning, I'm Karen Smith with Sunshine Line. Josh is nicely running my slides, so if I look sideways, I'm just looking at the screen. I'm here to present the rate review for this year. Every year, each CTC has to complete a rate worksheet that's provided by the Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged. It's required each year for the grant cycle that starts on July 1st. So it must be approved by this board and by the TD Commission staff. It's included in the TDSP, so the rates will show in the finance section in the TDSP, and it's the rates that are used for our grant. A copy of the entire rate worksheet is included in your agenda. It's a kind of cumbersome Excel spreadsheet, but that's the entire worksheet should you want to look at it. The rate worksheet essentially has us input next year's budget for our projected expenses, and then we estimate the trips and the miles for next year, and it determines what the reimbursement rate will be for the grant. It is, to be clear, sorry, I should have told you to go ahead. You can go to the next one now. Okay. So it is used to determine the rate that we are reimbursed for each trip. So the way that grant works, we provide trips at the end of the month, we bill the grant for the trips that we've provided. So this determines what they pay for each trip that we've provided. It does not determine the amount of the grant. The grant is determined by a formula, so no matter what these rates are, the grant for the year remains the same. So it doesn't change that, it just changes the rate at which we get reimbursed for each trip. You can go to the next one. It includes the revenue for next year, the estimated trips and miles for next year. So it's based on projected numbers, not on actual numbers for this year. I mean, we obviously project our numbers based on what's going on this year. And the grant, it determines the total cost per trip in a formula, but the grant will reimburse a portion of the cost. So it uses an underlying formula that we can't see to determine what the grant will reimburse us for. And as I said, the grant for next year is formula-based. Next year, we expect, based on what we just received from the state yesterday, the day before, the new grant for July 1st will be $2,749,000, including the 10% match. So that's about $342,000 more grant funds than the previous year, regardless of what the rates are here. And that's because they approved option one. So it's a good thing. But you can go to the next one. So we plug all those numbers into the rate worksheet, and these are the numbers that the grant will reimburse for ambulatory, wheelchair, and group trips for next year. So they would be $37.33 for an ambulatory trip, $63.99 for a trip that would use the lift in a vehicle. So a person who's one way or the other, we'll call it a wheelchair trip, but a trip that uses the wheelchair lift. $18.28 per passenger, which just means per passenger when it is a group of 5 or more. And the group per group rate, which is included in the worksheet, is $68.96. The Commission for the Transportation Disadvantage has discontinued using that, but it's still in the worksheet. So I think only a couple of CDCs were using that. A group per group used to be everyone from one place all going to the same place, and they don't have to build it that way anymore. We just need to get approval from this board. The Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged staff have already reviewed the worksheet and provided their approval. They sent it to you. Yes.
Sure.
So we just now need approval of this board so that these rates can be updated in the TDSP and included and used for our grant that starts in July.
We have someone to make the motion.
Just want to approve.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Josh, did the staff have any concerns when they read over it, or
The CTD staff or TPO staff?
either?
I have no concerns, and Sherry Powers of CTD didn't as well.
Okay.
Okay, well, there's a motion made by Councilman Schistler. Did you make the motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, we need a second.
Second, Gloria Mills.
Okay. It's been properly moved in second that we accept the trips and service rate approval. Do we have anyone opposing this item? Any opposers? Any opposers? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll go right to our status report. Scott Clark.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members.
Morning.
Clark, Sunshine Line. And I apologize for not being in person today. My air conditioning went out over the weekend, and today happens to be the day the contractors are replacing them, so you may hear some background noise. And I will not put my camera on for that reason. So to get things started, I want to thank the board members and the TPO staff for taking the time and for being so highly engaged, because you are the voice for the people who don't have a voice. And as I said before, there are many counties where their boards members are not engaged. And I hear that through the different transit organizations where they would say that they really wish their boards were more engaged. And this board is highly engaged, and we really need that feedback and that collaboration. And I do appreciate that very much, because it is very useful. I also want to thank the Sunshine Line employees, the staff. You know, they go well above and beyond, and they've been doing a phenomenal job. Most of them, the leadership staff, they do more than a single job. They do several jobs, several hats. Karen does a phenomenal job. She's highly regarded throughout the state and within the county. We have new leadership team. They've been there, our manager of operations and paratransit manager, for about a year, a little bit over a year for one of them. And they're new to the transit industry. So we're bringing leadership in and great talent into the transit industry, but they're doing a great job going through the learning curve of learning a new career and just coming up with great ideas. And then we have our CSRs. They're doing just a great job helping mitigate the situations, and also that we deal with each and every day with the people that we serve. And instead of being a no, we don't do that, no, we don't do that, there's a culture of how can we find a way to get that done. And they do a great job doing that. And especially our drivers, who throughout the pandemic, who they were scared to death and came to work every day. And it's not that they were just driving a vehicle. No, they had to go face to face with people. And they were afraid of catching the virus themselves and bringing it home to their family members. But they continued on without stopping. And they continue on now through the driver shortage, working hours overtime, and they're just doing a great job. So they have such a great attitude. And I just wanted to share my appreciation for the board members, TPO staff, and our Sunshine Line employees. So good news, we're getting ready to, we're preparing to support the Tampa Junior Civic Association with their water safety program in Town and Country, Brandon, and Tampa. We do that every year now, and that's one of our community partners. And it's so important and vital to let these individuals, these children, learn those skills to keep from drowning, the accidental drownings that we hear in the news, the tragic things that we hear in the news from time to time. And this helps those young individuals. And I'm so happy that Sunshine Line is able to support that effort. We're also preparing again for New Life Village trips. And New Life Village, they're an intentional community where you have grandparents who are fostering their grandchildren, and in that one community where it's affordable housing. So what we do is we provide field trips over the summertime for these individuals, for these children, where they get to go places where they would never be able to go otherwise, to Busch Gardens, skating rings, to the aquarium, different things like that. So we're preparing to support New Life Village again. We have a Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office homeless outreach. We're providing shuttle service for that later this month. We'll be picking up homeless from Trinity Cafe and Grace Point's The Shop and taking them to City Life Church on Dale Mabry and Waters so they can get showers and clothes and services that they need. We're also working with healthcare services for their healthy living program, and we'll be setting up booths for outreach at those different ones in Plant City and Ruskin. And typically we also provide transportation to those. Any questions so far?
Any questions from anyone? No, Scott.
All right, I'll continue on. So our key service indicators for March, our on-time performance is down 87.3%, which is really low. We're usually above our standard, which is 90% historically. Our trips per revenue hour are 1.3 and the standard is 2. So we're down on those. Calls handled, we did 6,669 trips at our percentage, our answer rate is 95%, which is really good. We had 8 compliments for March and only 3 complaints. And you'd think, wow, with the service going down like that, why so few complaints? That's because we were able to manage our customer expectations as part of our driver shortage strategy, which I'll talk about later on. And our accidents are up a little bit, 1.1, and the standard is 1.2. And a good thing is our cost per trip went down 18% from the previous months. Now going into the driver shortage, which we talked about the past couple meetings. So right now we have 17 vacancies out of 56 operator positions. We have 7 operators who are off the road long-term. And on the road daily, we average about 26 drivers out of 56. So we're operating at less than 50% a lot of times. And then our overtime, our last pay period was 350 hours for our last 2-week pay period. So some of the things that we're doing, we implemented a plan to help mitigate the adverse impacts due to the driver shortage. And those consisted of organizational changes, service modifications, and communications. Like I mentioned earlier with the low complaints, communications was key because we reached out to all of our door-to-door customers via Everbridge and informed them of the situation. And we also, for service-wise, we prioritized our trips, not our service like the trip priorities before, but we prioritize the trips into essential and non-essential. So essential trips, medical, food, things like medications, things like that. There's no change in those. The non-essential trips, we asked our customers to work with us for the non-essential trips. For instance, if they wanted a 9 o'clock to go to the mall and we didn't have the driver capacity to do that, but we had it at 10 o'clock, we would ask them if they can go at 10 o'clock. So that's been working really well. And then, so we had the communication, some service changes. We made sure we communicated with the operators, let them know of the situation and keeping them up to date. We're really looking at our routes and trying to maximize those to be the most efficient. One of the things, we're unable to support Saturday service, so we can focus our resources during the core service times of Monday through Friday. So that being said, there's no one that was left behind or no one left without transportation. We've been transitioning Saturdays for a while now, communicating with all of our customers that ride with us on Saturdays. Dialysis clients, we've been working with dialysis centers, getting them transitioned from Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Employment trips, we were working with those individuals so they find another means to the employment. And at least until we get the innovation grant going, or we get our driver base back up, and then we can restart that Saturday service. One other thing we're not able to support is adult daycare. When Aging Services opens back up with their nutrition program and adult daycare, we'll be able to support the nutrition program, but unable to support the adult daycare because of the restrictions that they have. Any questions so far?
One question, Scott. This is Indira from Career Source. The last time that we convened, the number of drivers that you needed was less than what you have right now. Has there been any conversation regarding consideration of maybe a higher wage? As we have found that the interest of potential candidates hinged on the wage thing, you know?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I've had conversations since April last year. I was working on the wage disparity, or whatever it would be called.
Has there been any movement?
We've been working diligently on it between HR and management and budget, but nothing has been totally resolved yet.
Okay.
So, but that is, I'm glad you brought that up. That is a key point, are the wages. So we have drivers leaving, that's why the number went up. They're going to other transit agencies or leaving the county or the state for other employment opportunities. And you think $15 an hour, that's truly not enough. You get a career person to employ a career person. That's minimum wage, a Wawa working wage, or a high school student working wage a lot of times. And,
Have you?
You get a career employee, a career transit operator on board, it has to be a lot higher than that.
And I know that you made the schedule adjustment to eliminate the Saturdays, and you've made accommodations with dialysis centers and whatever to accommodate their customers on different days. But have you noticed that because of this huge shortage in your driver base, that you've had to pay overtime? Do you guys pay overtime?
Yeah, and that's in the previously I said last pay period, it was 350 hours of overtime.
Right. So could that maybe be an argument that you make for a slightly higher wage? If you're having to consistently pay overtime, you might as well pay a higher wage.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked diligently on the wage issue. And that's a good point, and that is one of the aspects of that, is those things. Also the risk of working a lot of hours with operators, hence why we stopped the Saturdays, and which will reduce the overtime and the burden put on the drivers to work those extra hours. Because once they get burned out, they get fatigued, then their focus isn't so much on safety all the time. So that's another reason why Saturday service, we had to put that on the back burner for now.
Right.
But that's a good point.
Okay. But thank you for all your hard work, Scott. I know I'm asking a lot of questions, so thank you for all your hard work.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's not me, it's the staff. They are phenomenal. That's why I wanted to start off with my appreciation. They don't stop. They just keep pushing forward, providing the best service they can, because they really care. They have a servant's heart in the service that they provide. And that's from the top staff, the leaders, and the drivers and the customer service reps. They just do a phenomenal job, and I can't speak highly enough about them. But thank you. So I have a few other highlights that I wanted to continue on. The legislation approved the funding for the Commission of Transportation Disadvantaged Innovation Service Development grants, so for $6 million. And so we're working on a tri-county joint project that's going to be led by PSTA for nights, weekends, cross-county, and urgent medical care, which I think is really good. It's in our service plan to try and do these on a number of strategies. So we're hoping we get that. The reason why PSTA is the best option for leading this is they have a more robust staff that can manage the project, where Sunshine, we don't. We're already strapped doing 2-3 jobs as it is. We don't have the extra personnel to manage such a project. So that's going on right now. We're working on a joint application for the 3 counties, Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas. And one strategy we're also doing in Hillsborough County, we're working on another application just for us as a backup. So in case the tri-county one falls through, we'll be prepared to submit one on behalf of Hillsborough County, so we can get the nights and weekends and urgent medical care, which is very important. That's something I thought about a of years ago, myself having to go to urgent care and thinking about, well, how do our people get to urgent care? And it came up in a meeting that I had with healthcare services again, you know, that is an issue, people getting to urgent medical care, because you think you have your providers, you call your doctor, oh yeah, we'll see you in 6 weeks or 2 weeks, whatever the case may be. But if it's urgent, you can't wait that long. So what people end up doing is calling an ambulance and going to the emergency room, where urgent care would have been more appropriate. But if there's not a mechanism for them to get there, then we're using those valuable resources unnecessarily in the emergency room or the ambulances. So we're hoping that we can get this urgent medical care project also going, and to help alleviate some of that extra burden on the emergency medical transportation and the emergency rooms. And aging services is reopening 3 centers next week. We'll be supporting that. Ruskin, Progress Village, and Plant City, and we're so happy. It's been 2 years. And as we mentioned, we're operating at less than 50% operators, but we always find a way to make it happen. We have amazing staff. Our purchase service for overflow trips, aka a taxi contract, that's pending a pre-award meeting, which we have next week. And once that's awarded, that will help give us some relief. You know, it is limited by how much is budgeted for that, but it will help out with some of the workload. And then another good news thing is a Heart Plus service change. We identified 132 of our customers that needed the transition to Heart Plus. So far, 130 have transitioned with no issues, no problems, thanks to Kenley Green from Heart and our Rosa Velasquez, our customer service manager, and the CSRs. They made sure that it was seamless, the application process, and service wasn't lost throughout the transition. And that's all I have. If anyone has any questions for me.
Yes.
Hi, Scott. This is Christina Melling. I just wanted to go back to your previous comment regarding Sunshine Line not being able to support the adult daycare center transportation anymore. And
Yes.
I was just wondering if
Well,
that's...
not anymore. Let me clarify. Until we get our resources back up.
Okay, that's what I wanted you to clarify, that that's just a temporary change. And then once hopefully capacity concerns start to decrease, that you all will support transportation to those sites, because they are a very vulnerable population, and you know, caregivers and those clients are very excited to get back to the daycare center. So
right. The issue is the restrictions. I don't know if it's Title III or area aging, or I don't know where the restriction comes, but adult daycare, they can only be on board for 2 hours. And that restriction is also their standard. And that means 100% of the time, nobody can be on board the bus for more than 2 hours a day. So if there's an accident, traffic, a train, or a medical emergency on board, and those clients are on board the bus for more than 2 hours, then that's an issue, and that could be an audit finding. Where if whoever made that rule, the rule is fine, I'm in agreement with it, but they should also do a standard with it, like 90% of the time. That would really help out with that, but there's no way we have the resources to meet that, because a lot of times we end up just putting 2, maybe 3 people on board at a time to meet that constraint. And another good news is we are hiring, we have 2 new hire operators coming on board, starting training on Monday, and we have 3 pending. I forgot the
Got to see your comment regarding the 2-hour rule. I believe it is a state rule, but I don't know if there's any room, like you said, is that standard 98% of the time? Is there, you know, any built-in for unusual circumstances like an accident or something? I can look into that for you and, you know, advocate with the state on if there's any changes to that.
That would be great if they can make that. It's a great standard. more than 2 hours. All of us, as we get older, we can't be on board that long because the bathroom calls, or nature calls. But then we need to have a standard like 90% of the time, just like we like to get our clients to their appointments on time. That's the rule, but the standard is 90% of the time. So if they can do something like that, state, that would be great and give a little more flexibility for those things that we have no control over.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Scott.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, great.
This is,
Go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go.
All right, this is already prior. Scott, and I'm going to apologize. You were talking about that urgent medical care.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting, but I'm not sure if I heard if that's in place or if it's something that's aspirational. Can you kind of address that again?
Could you repeat your question?
Scott was speaking about the urgent medical care.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting. I think it's important. I'd just like for you to highlight that again. I think I missed an important part about that.
So what we're looking at is people get sick and they can't pre-schedule when they're going to get sick. Like our service is pre-scheduled transportation 2 to 7 days out. But some people get sick now and it's urgent and they need to see a doctor now. So number one, the medical providers usually can't do that. They make their appointments, a week, 2 weeks when they have openings from what I can see now. And it happens to me too, sometimes 6 weeks. Oh, we got an appointment 6 weeks. So sometimes things are urgent and they need to be looked at now. And that's why they have urgent care. But we don't have that transportation mechanism to get people to urgent care. And so what Transportation Disadvantage end up doing is calling an ambulance to get transportation to the emergency room to get that urgent medical care taken care of. And so if there's a mechanism, we should be able to decrease somewhat of the use of emergency medical transportation services and emergency room visits by providing that mechanism to go to urgent care when appropriate. So we're looking at in this Tri-County project for this upcoming grant to include urgent medical care in there. That where someone gets sick, they can call the provider and get a trip to any one of their medical cares of their choice for urgent care. And of course, back.
Okay. I'd like for you to certainly keep us abreast of that. That really sounds important and timely. I'm concerned because of the driver shortage, how that's going to, be coordinated and connected here. But certainly keep us abreast of that.
Artie, that would be contracted. This grant, we plan on contracting the entire grant out.
Okay. So is there an anticipated date on when something will be, agreed upon? Or
if we get the grant, I think the PSCA's date to implement this is in October, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this all is reliant upon getting the grant approved through the state and getting the funding in for the 3-county project.
And is there a dollar amount of the grant?
We can get up to, by legislation, for these multiple county or partner projects, we can get up to $1.5 million for that grant.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Scott. Keep us abreast.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Scott?
John Vargas has his hand up.
Okay, John?
Mine pretty much got answered.
Okay. John?
John, hold on. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Regarding the emergent transportation, now I know that it's being contracted out, and Sunshine Line ends at 5 o'clock. what time frame is the expectation? I understand that emergencies are emergencies, but what would be the time frame if someone would call in to, let's say, how long would they get there and what would be the turnaround time? And I know that's in terms of it's 5 o'clock, so how does that all work out?
So this would be contracted out, and the grant we're putting in for, and the contract will be for nights, weekends, cross-county, and urgent medical care. So it'll be, they call 2 o'clock in the morning, they'll call the provider. And so we'll give them a list of all our clients, and if one of our clients call to go to urgent care, then that provider will book the trip and take them.
Okay, so that goes at default to the provider then to actually coordinate the transportation for the individual?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the way.
Just wanted to clarify that because you know, when people get sick, they just don't think clearly on some occasions.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because Sunshine and I, we're not there for those hours, and people don't get sick, you know, all the time from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. What happens at 7 p.m.? And they need to get the urgent care, and that's why we're really pushing this. And I think it's a great idea. And we have some great numbers from healthcare services of the return on investment. So we're trying to push that.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I just wanted to, you know, make sure that, or, you know, at least on my end, understand that it wasn't the actual client who had to call to schedule the service. So it's actually being done by the provider with, you know, contracted sources stating that, you know, person A needs to be here at a certain time. The provider makes a phone call and then they can get there.
Not the medical provider, the transportation, they would have to call a transportation provider.
Okay, so they'd have to call the transportation provider. So with that, Sunshine Line closes at 5 o'clock. So I guess it would be a county board that they call or a county number that they would end up calling.
It would be the transportation, who we contract with the transportation.
Okay.
For instance, if we contracted with Uber, they would call Uber. Or if we contracted with XYZ company, they would call XYZ company. They would have a list of our clients, you know, all the 3 counties of the door-to-door clients, and they would book that trip at them.
Okay, so this the driver shortages technically wouldn't affect this at all because it would be outside contracted sources that, you know, I think that was one of the questions the other gentleman had as well, regarding ensuring that, you know, this could be implemented even with a driver shortage.
Yes, it would be with the driver shortage, it wouldn't have an effect. Hopefully we can get through the driver shortage quickly.
And speaking of driver shortage, is there a short-term plan to, I know there's always a long-term plan, and you and I are both ex-military, in the inference of for the general public, for those of us that are here, is there like a quote unquote, or, you know, a military short-term plan for the driver shortage to alleviate it?
Yeah, we implemented a plan of our driver shortage strategies, which were the organizational controls we put in place, which we messaged and spoke with the operators. We're maximizing our routes. We authorized overtime. We put prioritization on recruitment, working with Indira and our HR. We linked those up. We have decals on our vehicles saying that we're hiring, and where they have a QR code and it links them right to that position. Then our service strategies, we're working with the customers to control expectations. We opened our 90-minute window back up. Internally, we kept a 60-minute window. Even though our standard is 90, we just did that to be a better service. So we had to open it back up to 90, but we expressed that with them. We had to reduce our early return. So we do have a strategy. Yeah, we met with Hillsborough Healthcare to discuss long trips, and then working with the institutions and facilities and day programs about their trips. So that was our little strategy. And it seems to be working okay. We're getting through, like I said, we had 3 complaints in March, which is good for being at 50%.
As someone who uses Sunshine Line, I've got nothing but, you know, compliments for the service. Anybody who complains about the service just generally is going to complain about just about anything. The drivers are outstanding. As you said, the staff is outstanding. You know, it's a phenomenal service. As someone who does use the service, yeah, nothing but praise for the service and for the people who actually toil, the drivers. They're fantastic. I just, would like to actually see them stay. I've heard a few actually, wanting to leave, but I said, hey, look, it's a good program, and they do agree. And I think as someone who's, I think there's been a positive influence with some of them going to the Heartline Plus. That's alleviated some of it's made some of the job easier for some of the drivers when talking to them. Overall, how's that improve things for the driver shortage? I know there's 132 people that have been transferred out to Heartline Plus, and I think that's great because it reduces the stress level on the drivers of trying to get 20 people going from Plant City to Ruskin to Tampa, and one driver doing that all day long. But what happens if Heartline Plus does fail somebody? Because there's that kind of, Heartline Plus is maybe on time, may not be on time. How does Sunshine Line ensure that its former clients or that have been transferred to Heartline Plus can still possibly use Sunshine Line as a backup in the interim, or not an interim backup, just as a backup in case anything does go wrong, to ensure that we get the people to where they need to go?
Yeah, well, if they're in Heart service area, they would have to use Heart Plus or Heart, the bus, the normal transit. So because we can't duplicate service, but if they're going out, if their trip takes them outside of Heart service area, then Sunshine Line would come back in. So they should be dually enrolled for that aspect. But yeah, we can't back up Heart per se.
Well, I'm not saying as a backup, as just there's like a few confusion points aspect to some people. Like I've spoken to a few people with Heartline Plus, and they truly don't understand the Heartline Plus situation if they're not anywhere within. I think it's 1.5 miles that you have to be within a bus stop to get Heartline Plus.
Right, within a bus route, 1.5 miles.
In a bus route, so that's confusing to some of the people that I've spoken to who have done it, because they're like, well, I don't live within an area of a bus line, so how does it work out? And they contact them, and Heartline Plus doesn't give them the answers that they're looking for. So that was kind of the point, because you don't want to feel anybody or leave, give the impression that some people are being left out, which is not your responsibility whatsoever. But you know how the general public's going to think, more or less. It's like, hey, look, someone's got to take care of me.
Yeah, and if you run into anybody, they can always contact us, our customer service reps, and let them know if the rep doesn't give them an answer, they can always ask for a supervisor or a manager, because we work directly with Kenley Green, and she runs the customer service over at Heart Plus, and we will find a transportation solution for those individuals if you run into anything like that.
Okay. No, fantastic service. Like I said, nothing but compliments versus, the zero complaints. You shouldn't have 3 complaints, and it's simply because I know the people who work for the program. I just, it's just with the transition and the driver shortage, a lot of people tend to blame the government, which is really not their responsibility for the government to take care of them. But at the same token, they feel like that it needs to be done. Or they need to be taken care of. And I just, I'm not the person to answer those questions. I just want to make sure that if it can be, that can be addressed to them, because it's an uncertain time, and most people are become shell shocked for just, certain things, or they've gone to hide, and, they're pretty much going, well, I don't know what to do at this point. So.
Yeah, just refer them to customer service, and we should be able to take it from there. And they can always escalate things. That's why we're here, and that's why I'm here. That's why I get paid. We're about transportation solutions.
Well, no, it's fantastic. Like I said, someone who does use it, I got nothing but compliments.
Any other questions?
Dialogue. We appreciate the excellent dialogue between Scott and, can't recognize the name. John. Excellent comments. Glad we have something in place, being that we've served 135 and 130 have been placed with HART. So it shows that the communication is there and that HART would do whatever they can to make sure they take care of those individuals that will be riding HART Plus. And thank you, Scott, for your unwavering support of juggling your schedule to meet the needs of our elderly who needs the transportation, where you have a shortage of staff, but you continue to provide the services to the people. Are there any other questions for Scott? Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to Amber Simmons, FY23 and FY24 UPWP preliminary draft. Amber?
Yes. Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Amber Simmons, TPO staff, to introduce to you the fiscal year 23-24 Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP as it's known as. And we'll start right off, moving on to the next slide. As a reminder, the UPWP is updated every 2 years, and the TPO fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th. The UPWP purpose is to both document and coordinate federal and state funding for the MPO transportation planning that's conducted by the TPO, DOT, HART, and the CTD. It also outlines our major planning tasks and complies with federal and state rules. And now let's take a look at our upcoming budget. This year, PL and FTA funds are combined and are treated as if they are all PL funds, and it does not yet include the deobligated funds or the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged state funds. The CTD funds were estimated at previous year amounts of $50,336, as amounts are not yet known. In comparison to the previous UPWP, there's approximately $1.4 million over the 2-year period of combined PL and FTA, and approximately $178,000 more in SU funds over the same 2-year period. The deobligated funds that will be added are $55,170 in PL funds, $145,000 in SU funds, for a total of $200,170 in deobligated funding. Moving on. Listed are the 6 tasks that you are probably familiar with, and some of the areas of each, as well as there is a new task 7, which is a regional task. Unlike our previous regional task 6, the new SCTPA support and shared task has been in development as part of a regional project to make the UPWP task tables more uniform and to clearly define the task or tasks where a transfer of funds between MPOs take place. The only items listed in this new regional task are items that both transfer funds between MPOs and require an MOU or agreement to do so. The other coordinated efforts will remain in task 6. And now we'll move on to some of the things that we've done in 21 and 22. The next few slides are our 21-22 completed projects. Task 2, for those of you that don't know, are focusing on system and corridor planning and the related studies and projects. Moving on to the next. Task 3 focuses on data monitoring, and the long-range transportation plan. Task 4 on the transportation improvement program. And moving ahead. Task 5 is our public participation, and lastly, Task 6 are our regional coordination projects. Now we're going to take a look at our disadvantaged business percentage. We are very pleased to report that our current disadvantaged business enterprise, or commonly known as DBE, is at 14.5% of our consultant projects. The state goal is 10.65. And now we'll take a look at our UPWP development schedule. This slide will give you an overview of the UPWP development schedule. The first draft was sent to DOT on March 15th. This committee, as well as others, are commenting on a preliminary draft in April. And the final UPWP will be presented to the TAC, CAC, and the board in May for adoption. The new fiscal year of the UPWP will become effective July 1st, 2022. The next slide. This slide represents a list of all received new projects for the UPWP. From HART, we received requests for the transit development plan that we are offering a 50-50 match to assist HART with the study. The city of Tampa requested citywide streetlight evaluations, signal timing, and corridor and roadway safety assessments, and a streetcar feasibility study. I'm going on to the next slide. The next few slides will highlight the TPO recommended projects list and summarizes the critical path projects that began in fiscal year 22 and will continue into 23, optional recommended projects, and projects which are recommended with additional alternative funding. The critical path projects are listed first, and these are either previously approved that will continue into 2023 or are needed as part of maintaining compliance with federal and state rules. And moving on. These are our critical path projects continued. They have an estimated cost of about $1.2 million. And next are our other recommended projects. And there we go. And these are the TPO other recommended projects with an estimated cost of approximately $1 million. And those are, I'm sorry, I'll just roll back and read those for just a moment for you because there's quite a bit of text there. The Plant City Southeast Master Plan support and other planning, Temple Terrace multimodal district update and other planning, the completion of the HART bus stop inventory, support for HART's transit development plan, road safety assessments for county roads in the city of Tampa, resiliency, return on investment evaluations for projects, metropolitan priorities for the state rail plan, and additional data collection for multimodal counts, health data, and others. Thank you. Next slide. Since our previous presentations, we've more clearly defined the estimated cost from the information we had on the projects that are considered optional, recommended, and contingent upon additional funding. The potential funding sources we've listed here as well. And we'll move on to the projects that started in 22 and will be concluding in fiscal year 23. They have a total estimated cost of about $80,000. And we'll move on to the next DOT's planning activities. As this is a coordinated planning process, the intent of the UPWP is to assist with documenting the coordination. And the next two slides look at this coordination. This is the FDOT federally, their planning activities that they've listed as our Appendix G in the new UPWP. And lastly, HART's information is forthcoming and they will be listed as our Appendix H in the new UPWP. And finally, I'd like to thank you so much for your time and I'd like to open it up for discussion or any questions and comments.
Any comments, any questions? Anyone online?
We're good.
Okay, thanks so much, Amber.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
You too. Next is the introduction to new TPO study. Gina Torres.
Chair, that'll be me actually. Gina Torres is out on vacation. Lucky for her. I will try my best to go through all 6 of these studies. I am only leading one of them. But I will do my best. So typically our committees receive an overview presentation from each project manager for our studies when the project begins, but Right now, we have over 6 studies underway, and we thought it would be easier to just kind of give a brief introduction to each all at once. So the first one is a health impact assessment of the complete streets projects in our 2045 long-range transportation plan. As you all know, health has really emerged as a planning focus area for the TPO with our health and all policies resolution and other work we've done. And so we really want to improve health outcomes through our bicycle and pedestrian network as well. And so we were really only able to do a cursory look at the health impacts when we developed our 2045 plan. But for safety, we have a performance measure with the surtax funding, of course, that funds 350 miles of complete streets projects. So we really want to understand how building those projects would impact health and reduce overall health risks. So there's basically 2 tasks. The first one is developing a baseline for the county for health risk using a tool developed by the consultant, which is VHB, for all the census tracts for areas such as high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, heart disease. And then using that to we'll take 5 complete streets treatments based on context zones and apply those to all of the 350 miles of projects. And we'll use that to implement it into the model, and that'll hopefully kind of spit out, how does these complete street projects impact health countywide is the general gist. And so the general project schedule for that, we're expecting it to come before committees sometime in June, July, and the TPO board in August. And I will be the point of contact for that if you all have any questions on it. The next major project is the freight supply chain resiliency study. The big study goals are to identify key supply chains in Hillsborough County and how they can be impacted under different disaster scenarios, what vulnerabilities there are, and how they can be strengthened if we're faced with a disaster. We'll analyze 5 commodities. Those will be chosen by the stakeholders, and it could be anything from water supply to medical availability, communications, energy, stuff like that. And then we'll analyze how they function under normal and disaster scenarios. And the study will ultimately make recommendations for mitigating those impacts, as well as lay out a timeline and strategies for continuing engagement with supply chain partners. The study will wrap up at the end of the summer and will come before the committees in August as well. And if you want any more information on the freight supply chain resilience study, Allison Ye, my supervisor, will be the lead on that project. The next major project we're working on is a data sharing platform. This is a joint study conducted with Hillsborough County. The big study goal is to produce a crash and travel time reliability forecasting model that's going to be integrated into our performance measurement portal that's used for items such as the state of the system report and others. It'll predict daily and hourly volume, compute travel time, and calculate performance for reliability and safety. And there's another option to produce a traffic impact analysis model focused on performance and new developments. The tech memos coming out of this project will be shared in the summer with the ITS committee. That's on July 14th. That might be worth checking out. And the lead on that project will be Johnny Wong and Sarah Caper with Hillsborough County as well. The next major study is the Tampa School Transportation Safety Study. The big study goals are, of course, building on the last school safety study that was developed in 2018, identifying transportation improvements around a set of determined schools and transportation improvements that connect to the school as well. And they'll be developing school-specific education materials and strategies for safety, and also developing a general template to be used at the other schools. This project is going to be going on until the end of the year, and really focusing on outreach tasks that coincide with the start of the school year in August. And you can see some of the more key tasks here as well. Project schedule, this will be, like I said, going on until the end of the year. And if you want more information, the project manager for that is going to be Lisa Silva. The next major study is the Plant City Canal Trail Study. This Canal Connector Trail was identified as one of the 3 catalyst projects in the Plant City's Walk Bike Plan 2018. There are a lot of limited trail systems in the area, and this study is going to identify ways to connect on-road bike lanes to residents, businesses, and other points of interest and key destinations that supports healthy and active mobility. After they look at a high level look to rule out locations due to significant barriers, they'll be identifying up to 3 alternatives, and it'll include a more in-depth look at where crossing is needed due to highways, rail lines, water bodies, and other right-of-way needs as part of the study. The impacts to the environment will also be examined, and how to just generally provide the best trail experience for the users. The general project schedule is set to be completed at least by the end of September, with opportunities for public input in the summer. And Wade Reynolds, our bike ped and health planner, will be the lead on that project. And the last major study is a Hillsborough County Bicycle Network evaluation that we're collaborating with the county on. It's been a while since the entire county was assessed for prioritizing and programming where bike facilities are needed and what they cost, and where they're needed the most. So there'll be a facility inventory. There'll be a review of current plans, program studies, a network mapping, and they'll ultimately identify prioritization methodology, as well as identify needs and then develop a prioritization methodology for those projects. Recommendations, design concepts will also be generated, as well as cost estimates on at least 4 of the segments. The project is anticipated to be finished in September, with opportunities for comments as well. And the project manager for this will also be Wade Reynolds, in coordination with Abigail Flores from Hillsborough County Public Works. And that's the end of that presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. I may be able to answer them. If not, I may refer you to the project manager for any new study.
Any questions for Josh? If not, you can always refer you. Thank you so much, Josh. Okay, our next item, under old business and new business, the letter requested by the TDCB regarding the cert tax funding. Josh.
Hey everyone, Josh again, TPO staff. You all are tired of hearing my name. I guess a little background on this. The board in February moved to draft a letter to request dedicated funding as part of the surtax that is going on the referendum in November for the Sunshine Line. I coordinated with Beth Alden, our executive director, and I provided her with information about Sunshine Line's needs moving forward. And she included that in a presentation that went before the Board of County Commissioners in March as part of their workshop for the surtax. Given the timing of the request, the decision was made that we couldn't just staff couldn't just draft a letter and have the chair sign and have it forwarded. It needed to come back before this board to be approved, and then it needed to go before the TPO board once again to be approved as a formal letter. Unfortunately, given the timing, didn't really line up well with making that request. The Board of County Commissioners voted to finalize the language for the referendum on Wednesday night. Is that correct, County?
Yes.
And so in discussions with staff, the executive director, with our chair, it was decided that this was not the best path forward for getting sales tax money dedicated to the Sunshine Line. And so right now, we're working on coordinating at a staff level with the county, the 3 cities, and the TPO to decide the best step forward to ensure that the Sunshine Line will be funded through surtax money. So that's the general update right now. I'll keep you all abreast as our conversations develop. And I'm happy to take any questions on that as well.
Any questions for Josh?
Did I miss anything?
As always, thank you, Josh. Any questions online from anyone? Okay, the next item is a memo on government in the Sunshine, and we know we have a memo in our board packet.
I don't have any particular updates. I definitely would encourage you all to read the memorandum. There's been some concerns about committee members sharing opinions with each other outside of publicly noticed meetings and documented meetings. And basically, it's a reminder that as public officers here, you all are required to comply with the Sunshine Law, which includes not having any conversations with other members of the board regarding items that may come before our board outside of publicly noticed meetings. More details are provided in the memorandum attached to that.
Thank you for that wonderful explanation. Okay, our next meeting is June 24th, 2022. But before Gloria would ask, anything you would like to share? I have to say so.
Nothing right now.
Okay. And we have our addendum before we adjourn. Just want to bring to our attention the TPO meeting summary and committee report, Live, Grow, Thrive, Tampa Comprehensive Plan Vision Survey flyer. Any other comments, any questions, anything to come before the board before we adjourn? This meeting is adjourned at 11:02 a.m. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful, productive weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.